Good morning, everyone. I'm Ann Eaton, and I want to welcome you to this morning's webinar, Berks, a Texas Opportunity Zone Closing First Investment in Texas. This is going to be presented by Amber Gilbert, the Director of Business Development at Berks, as well as Ann Eaton, Opportunity Zone Manager at the City of San Antonio. Mr. Paul McClintock will not be joining us due to a last-minute conflict. Just a reminder that these webinars are recorded and will be later posted to our YouTube channel and website, and questions will be left to the end of this webinar. If you have a question, you can just put your mouse over the screen and a little window should pop up where you'll type in your question. So I will now hand it over to Ann.
Thank you, Annie. Good morning, everyone. Allow me to just get this presentation up for you. Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning. My name is Ann Eaton. I am the Opportunity Zones Manager for the City of San Antonio. It was a position that was created earlier this year, following, again, all the information and the excitement that's come from Opportunity Zones. Today, I'll provide you a background on kind of the nuts and bolts of Opportunity Zones and the tax incentive and how it works and the types of projects that it could be used for. I'll provide also a summary of there's been a robust amount of federal activity regarding Opportunity Zones since about April of this year. And then lastly, I'm going to talk a little bit about what we're doing in San Antonio to be a part of Opportunity Zones. So if you're familiar, the Opportunity Zones tax incentive, the designation came through the passage of the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act to encourage private investments in low-income communities. So being mindful of the intent of the legislation, the designation is based upon census tracts. And it was census tracts that have been historically disadvantaged and meant to be eligible based upon high poverty levels of 20% or above, and or area median income of 80% or below based upon the area of the location of the census tract. The governors from all states were tasked with the selection of the opportunity zones in their states. And in San Antonio, our mayor and council did provide recommendations to the governor's office, and ultimately they were selected by Governor Abbott. So the tax incentive allows for, if an investor has a capital gain that's been triggered, to defer capital gains taxes until December of 2026. So that's the first benefit. The second benefit of the tax incentive, depending upon the length of investment is held for an Opportunity Zone project, the investor could receive a 10% reduction in that tax amount, or for 5 or more years, or 7 or more years of 15%. And then the third benefit of the Opportunity Zones, if an investor defers the taxes, I also wanted to mention, to participate in this space, an investor must create what's called a Qualified Opportunity Fund, and that has to be certified through the IRS. The IRS website has a lot of great information there for kind of like, again, the nuts and bolts and how you get your fund certified. And so in addition to the potential reduction based upon the length of the investments held, the last benefit is exemption of any appreciation on that investment. So if there should be a gain, if the investment's held for at least 10 years, there's at least there's some type of gain in that appreciation of that asset or whatever the project may be, then that is completely tax-free if held for at least 10 years. The tax incentive allows for a variety of projects. There's been a myriad of projects around the country that have been happening. These can be formed, they can be, individual single investor projects, they can be formulation of corporations. The big thing to keep in mind is that the investor does have to create that qualified opportunity fund. That is basically the investment vehicle that is used to deploy capital to projects. And then mentioning the diversity in the projects that can take shape. It can be through, purchase of interest or stock or, acquisition of property. So there's been lots of projects that, of course, have a real estate focus, but then there's also business projects from large industry to small business. So there's been some really creative, projects happening around the country. I mentioned a robust federal activity. So the legislation was passed in December of 2017. However, the first round of regulations that really kind of provided the how-to guide on how to take part in the incentive, the first round was released in October of 2018. Still left a lot of questions, especially for business operations, on how they could take part in the tax incentive. April of this year, the long-awaited second round of regulations were released, and they've been seen pretty favorably by the community. I've been to a few conferences around the country, and so you're starting to see more projects kind of spurn up from following that second release. And there is word that there might be a third and final release of regulations before the end of 2019. Also, President Trump in December of last 2018, through executive order, created the White House Opportunity and Revitalization Council. And so this is being led by Secretary Ben Carson, and it's the formation and comprised of more than 13 federal agencies, and they're looking at over 160 federal programs, from grants to loans to how they can further align and leverage what they're already doing to further benefit opportunity zones around the country. In April and May, there were also 3 requests for information posted on the Federal Register, one from Treasury Department, one from HUD, and one from IRS. I'll give you a short recap of those here in the next few slides. And then lastly, there was a bipartisan bill introduced, Bill 1344, that is looking to how do we track and impact an investment and from qualified funds that are created. So for example, like being able to track how much investment is occurring in these zones by the funds that are being created. And then also going back to the intent of the legislation, how are we becoming aware of what the actual outcomes are for many opportunity zone projects? Mentioning of the White House Council, there were 5 work streams that were created. You can see here on the slide. So economic development being led by Department of Commerce, entrepreneurship being led by Small Business Association, safe neighborhoods by the Department of Justice, education and workforce. This is a co-led effort with Department of Education and Labor. And then lastly, measurement and analysis, similar to kind of what the Senate bill is trying to do. That's being led by Council of Economic Advisors. And again, these are thinking through federal programs and how you can create that alignment with the federal resources and efforts that are already existing. The Treasury had posted an RFI. It closed on May 31st, and this was seeking input on data collection and tracking of qualified opportunity funds. So that QOF, that acronym is short for Qualified Opportunity Fund. Again, the investment vehicle that has to be formed to participate in the tax incentive. So what we did is here in San Antonio, we have formed groups of stakeholders, both internally and externally. And the external group is comprised of some of our redevelopment authorities, such as Amber from Berks. We've also included local developers, real estate professionals. We've also included our community development groups. And so we leaned on this group for feedback. So it's kind of great timing that we had formed them because we needed them to participate in these requests for information. So the intent of this one was asking again, how are we going to quantify impact? What should we be tracking? So in summary there, you can see just the kind of high level of what we provided as a response. We also asked for, again, the creation of an investment calculator to utilize that would allow an investor to kind of calculate based upon the capital gain that they'd be deferring, and if they held the investment, kind of being able to kind of forecast some scenarios there. The next RFI was from HUD. This one was looking at basically how would HUD benefit OZs from aligning its current authorities. If you worked with HUD, some of the feedback we received from our work group was that some of the regulations can be onerous and can be time consuming, which could add cost to projects. So we asked for HUD to allow communities to have some more liberty in their ability to rely on local policies in regards to like environmental assessments and permittings and things of that sort. Again, with OZs, just allowing some flexibility there to hopefully minimize some time impacts.
Hey, Ann.
Yes?
Sorry to interrupt. We're just getting some comments that the audio is a little bit muffled. If you could just speak a little bit louder.
Oh, my apologies. Absolutely will do. Bear with me 1 second. So the next RFI was posted by the IRS, seeking information on the actual regulations. So going back to the legislation, the deadline for the deferral of taxes is until December of 2026. So for investors to maximize that 15% reduction, if they hold the investments for 7 or more years, a fund has to be created by the end of 2019. As I've mentioned, there were almost a year and a half delay in regulation. So we together provided the feedback and a letter to Secretary Mnuchin asking for consideration of extension of that deadline, again, to allow investors more time to consider their options. As we all know, this is a federal tax incentive, but here at the city, we've really taken an active approach in having a pretty outward strategy and working with our stakeholders, educating the community. So here's a map of our opportunity zones in the city of San Antonio and Bexar County. We have 24 opportunity zones that were selected. We are the Texas city with the second most, following the city of Houston and Harris County. So we have, a lot of them are clustered together. So we think of them as opportunity zone regions, as you can see, and they're defined by either assets or landmarks that are nearby. And so just to give you some frame of reference, so you'll you'll hear from Amber. So Berks is an entire, and I apologize, they've since rebranded. They're now just Berks. So Amber, my apologies for that. I'll get that corrected. Berks is the entire campus of Berks is an opportunity zone, also with the adjacent World Heritage area. We have a UNESCO World Heritage area here in San Antonio for our 5 missions. Port San Antonio is a large cyber technology campus that we also have here. The far south region, you'll see on the left there, you'll find we have a Toyota manufacturing plant here. We also have Texas A&M University. Our entire downtown is an opportunity zone. We have tracks to the east, west, and then we also have the northeast corridor, which is, close proximity to the airport, and then also has connectivity to major infrastructure in that far northeast corner. So I mentioned what we've really done is leaned on our stakeholders and working very closely. So the external advisory group, we began meeting in April, and those are acronyms for San Antonio Growth for the East Side, South Side First, West Side Development Corporation, our Economic Development Foundation, our Housing Authority. We are fortunate that the HUD Regional Director for Texas is actually here in San Antonio. Berks, Port San Antonio, and then I mentioned some investors. So we've really leaned on this group to kind of inform our strategy as we're moving along, and then also to make sure that we're understanding community needs. We've also formed a technical working group, and this is representatives from City of San Antonio, from departments who have a role in the project, from permitting, zoning, planning, our water utility, our energy utility, TxDOT, and our metropolitan planning organization. So what we're trying to really do in San Antonio is leverage this as a strength. That
So I'm still getting comments that your words are very like muffled. If you
Okay.
can,
Okay, let me see if I can scoop this up. Maybe it'll work better. Okay, let's try this again. So we're really trying to leverage as an asset in San Antonio that we're working directly with projects, and any opportunity zone projects we are essentially hand holding for the processes to ensure that we're not creating any hindrances or any time delays from what we're doing here. We have spent a lot of time educating the community. As we all know, opportunity zones are fast evolving. We're all still learning. So we've created a speakers bureau. We go out and speak to groups and educate them about opportunity zones. We've updated our City of San Antonio website to add some information mapping tool. So you go to the mapping for all in one location for bond projects that we've approved, any public enhancements. It has any incentive programs that we have in the city. It has the opportunity zone boundaries, and then it has all the planning and information. We've created some marketing collateral to begin to market opportunity zones, and we have a longer opportunity zone brochure that should be done from production next week. Next thing we're moving towards is cities are being tasked with marketing and creating an investment prospectus. So we're going to be releasing an RFP here in the next few weeks for a platform that's going to be used solely to market our opportunity zones. And then lastly, we're starting to really move into the space of becoming aware of projects and trying to think creatively of how we can identify projects and funds and find that way to create that matchmaking role and bringing those together so we can see projects come to fruition. We are also working with the West. I mentioned we have 3 tracks just west of downtown. Also, what's going on in part of the city is our University of Texas at San Antonio downtown campus has a plan to expand over the next 6 to 8 years. And so we have partnered with a local group, and we're working with a consultant to develop a strategic plan that will essentially identify corridors and business in need of investment. And then secondly, it's going to extract those community redevelopment priorities so we could be mindful of those as we work through opportunity zones. So in summary, we're going to continue to participate at also keeping a pulse of what's going on nationally with the White House Council. We'll be releasing P to continue to enhance our marketing efforts. We're exploring facilitation projects and identify with any created funds. And then lastly, as we work through how can we leverage those against the tools that we already have here in the city as in regards to any housing projects or business projects. We have a small business office, so we also have some incentives there. So we're looking at how can we just continue to enhance all the tools that we already have and bring those together. And there's my contact info. If you have any specific questions, I'm happy to take a call or an email and help you out. And
all right, thank you, Ann. Okay, Amber.
Thank you, Ann. It's always great to hear from you and work with you. I'm going to get into my presentation. When I give my briefing, sometimes I refer to Paul, but what I mean is DPR Investments, which is the first opportunity zone investment at Berks.
Good morning. My name is Amber Gilbert. I'm the Director of Business Development at Berks. I'm excited to get the opportunity to share with you all what's going on at Berks and how the Opportunity Zone has only added fuel to our fire.
Amber.
So to start with, I'll give you a little.
Your screen isn't shared. You need to share your screen because we can't see it.
Wonderful. Well, I am listening to it, so sorry about that.
Okay, there we go.
All right, here we go.
Good morning. My name is Amber Gilbert. I'm the Director of Business Development at Berks. I'm excited to get the opportunity to share with you all what's going on at Berks and how the Opportunity Zone has only added fuel to our fire. So to start with, I'll give you a little bit of history on Berks, and then I'll dive into a little bit more details about some of the developments that have recently been accomplished, including the one with DPR, the first Opportunity Zone sale in Texas. So Berks is a unique entity. It's a public entity established by the state of Texas. It is a non-taxed property, and during the time when the Air Force Base closed around 2001, Berks was established to redevelop the 1,300 acres that was left over after the military left. And so because it's a unique entity, I believe it's part of the history of Berks, and moving forward that there's innovative solutions and developments going on. And so I look forward to sharing that with you all. I have a video of the Berks history that will give you some of the baseline of our past, and then I'll show you a video of how Berks looks today, and then we'll go into the details.
Commercial air travel, space travel, prepackaged food, LASIK surgery, MRIs, artificial heart pumps, backpack parachutes. None of these things would have been possible if it weren't for discoveries made here at Berks. The story of this place is so incredible, it's almost hard to believe.
There will be and those pressures in this country to do less in this area as in so many others, and temptations to do something else that's perhaps easier. But this research here must go on. This space effort must go on. The conquest of space must and will go ahead. That much we know. That much we can say with confidence.
The list of discoveries, innovations, and patents that originated at Berks goes on and on. It's an incredible story.
So I love that video. It gives a little bit of flavor for our past and how Berks in our developments integrates our history into our future. And here is a video that I wanted to share with you of how Berks looks today. It gives you a general knowledge, and we also show this to our international prospects that we meet with. In the last 20 months, we've landed over 4 international companies, and so this is a video that often gives you a flavor if you can't visit the campus. Liv Brooks. So as you look at this slide, it's one of my favorite slides, 2 slides to show the impact of what developing the land into a mixed-use community has done. In 2003 time period, this is an aerial of what Berks looked like. This was only 3 years after the Berks base was closed. And what you can see is the land, the 2,500 acres, where Berks makes up 1,300 acres of it, was assessed at $36.8 million. That same land was assessed in 2017 at $618 million, with over $1.5 billion worth of economic impact. So you can see how bringing in the foundation of parks and hotels and some of the mixed-use development has created a lot more economic development activity and impact. We often have to show the prospects where we're located, and we're just 10 minutes south of downtown, and that we have a young workforce. This is our property and how it lays out today. The A portion of the property is where we have Incarnate Word's Osteopathic Medical School. This is a really nice asset to have on the campus because the hill is where all of that research from the video was going on, most of it. And those old historic buildings have now been restored and made into a medical school. They have over 400 students, and they add about 150 students a year, so it's a growing medical school. We also have our 43-acre linear park, which has free Wi-Fi throughout. It has trails that take you in to the 15 miles of bike trails with Mission Reach near the San Antonio River. So a really nice, beautiful asset for the community to enjoy. It also has ponds throughout that are stocked with fish and wildlife. So it's a really nice thing to enjoy. The B portion of our property is where we have currently our largest tenant, Mission Trails Baptist Hospital. It's over $130 million investment, and they're looking at expanding the hospital with a tower and or additional stories to the hotel with all of the people moving in, lots of babies. And then we are the southern tip of the city of San Antonio. So we also serve about 18 zip codes that enjoy our retail and our mixed-use development here. The C portion of our property is where we have our largest employers, including Mission Solar, Nisei Plastics, DPT Labs, and some others that are coming soon. Live, work, learn, play, stay is a big part of the Berks environment. We have a lot of living options. So if you want to live at Berks, we have over 1,200 apartment units. We have 164 homes. When we were developing out this residential component, there was no data to support these kind of quality multifamily and residential product. And we took the risk, and not only were we full ahead of time, we also have rents that were much higher than anticipated that rival some of the nicest areas in San Antonio. As far as learning opportunity, educational opportunities for families, we have elementary all the way to higher education on campus. We have SAISD schools and East Central schools, and we also have charter schools. We have Compass Rose, which has an elementary school that is looking to also bring their high school. We have Berks Academy that has 1,700 students looking to grow to 4,000 students in the next 5 years. And they're a thriving school. We also have CastMed. HEB donated $2 million to add a medical high school to the campus at Berks. Health Careers in San Antonio is a top 5 program, and we expect that CastMed will be another really nice program to have on campus. We also have, as I stated earlier, Incarnate Word's osteopathic program, which has 400 students and continues to grow. Our park that I talked a little bit about is truly a place to enjoy. 43 acres. We're also adding a dog park, so it's also for your fur babies. So the community really embraces it. We throw a lot of events on the park. It's really a beautiful place to enjoy. Play is really important in the community. One of the events that we love is we bring tons of snow into the San Antonio community. And for some families, it's the first time they've ever seen snow. And that's something that the community can enjoy. But we always have events going on to ignite the community. We have our own hotel. Here's a video.
Gasm here, coming to you from the Embassy Suites at Berks on the southeast side of San Antonio. This is not your normal hotel stay.
We're not just your typical Embassy Suites. I mean, our full-service spa with its own salt cave.
And at the helm of Restaurant 1917 is Chef Rachel Potts.
And we have our own gardens. We have our own beehives out back, and we utilize that honey for our cocktails, for our menu items.
It's time that you experience the Embassy Suites at Berks and follow me for more food gasms.
So the hotel that I mentioned is the only full-service hotel south of downtown, all the way to Harlingen. So it's a real nice asset that was needed in the community. It stays 80% full. It really is a community asset that is utilized. The hotel also runs our Hangar 9. It's the only World War I wooden hangar left, and it's a beautiful event. We just hosted the governor, the mayor, and a lot of important people as we made a big announcement bringing Oaken BPS, which is bringing, in their announcement, they said 1,600 jobs. But initially we'll have the first 300 to 400 jobs, all over 65,000 near the Hill area at Berks. We have over 40 businesses at Berks today, which surpasses the 2,700 jobs lost when Berks was an Air Force base. So we have a lot of companies, Nisei Plastics from Japan. We have Mission Solar out of South Korea. We have also Cuisine Solutions, which I'll talk a little bit more about later, which they're out of France. And we have Oaken BPS, which is out of the Czech Republic. And then the largest employer currently, which is about to be surpassed, is Mission Trails Baptist Hospital. And we have lots of proposals out for more companies, because at Berks, we believe the more economic activity that we can drive by bringing companies, the more it's going to impact the community in the region. Here's some of those recent announcements. The largest food manufacturing facility in the U.S. is coming. The company's called Cuisine Solutions. Since this slide, the facility's grown. It's a $150 million facility, and it should bring quite a few jobs, at least 550. Their facility in Virginia has over 1,000, and this is the largest facility, so we can only imagine that that's going to be a great opportunity for our campus. We also brought Oaken BPS that I talked about. Those jobs are over 65,000, and the first 300 to 400 start happening in the next couple months or so on the Hill portion of our campus. And then opportunity zones. We inked the first opportunity zone sale with DPR Investments, which Paul will get into the details of that deal. But that really put us on the map in terms of opportunity zones. Closing the first one in Texas. It could have been the first in the US, we just can't verify that, but we can verify that we were in Texas. So it's exciting for our campus. We have several other proposals out in opportunity zone groups that we're confident that are going to impact adding additional jobs to Berks and to San Antonio. We have 350 acres left of our 1,308 acres. Most of that land is in our light industrial area, which brings most of the employers. Our land is non-taxed, so we can do some really unique structures in terms of leasing so that these companies could incubate and grow. But we also sell our property. So we do a balance of sales and leases to balance as an authority. And why we do that is Berks is self-sustaining. We don't get money from the city or the state to operate. Here's some things that are coming soon, and there's more proposals out with the Opportunity Zone. Like I said, we already had a great momentum with the 20 months getting the 4 international companies. But then we also have added Berks Via Transit Center. It's a smart hub. It's one of the highest level transit options that Via offers, which will have it'll have last mile solutions to get employees on campus throughout and home. So some really neat things there. Every 5 minutes it'll have routes to downtown and McCreeless, which is really important for this community, and 8 additional routes. We also have city-based commons, which will be our most elevated retail to date, with even more elevated coming. But the community, we did a survey and they really felt like we were a food desert. And so now we will have our Smoothie Kings, the McAllisters, some of the food options that the community expect to have that are part of other places in town. And then we're bringing Southerly's. It's currently under construction at our park. It's a really hip, cool restaurant in San Antonio. And we've also signed La Gloria, which is not currently under construction yet, but will be coming soon, which is also a local favorite in town. So like I said, all this momentum going on, all these companies that we're bringing, and then getting the Opportunity Zone designation just really has helped Berks and helped the community solidify some other companies that look to be coming to us. So we're really excited about it. And the Opportunity Zone is the green portion that you see here, but we also have the orange, which is the TERS zone. All of the properties that we sell then become taxed into the TERS zone. And then the blue area is SA Tomorrow, which was the first regional plan by the city in terms of an area. And so with all of these different initiatives that are going on at Berks, which is in the red portion, it's really helped fuel a really dynamic community that is only going to continue to help the city and help the state bring the kind of employers that we want to see here. And I'm really excited about what.
That is my presentation on Berks. We can now get into the Q&A when you're ready.
I have a couple of questions. Ann actually was typing in and answered them, but I'll just read them aloud for anyone else. One question was, do you mean tax, and I guess, Amber, you can chime in on this as well. Do you mean tax-free for the purchase or going forward after purchase?
Okay. To clarify, the land, if owned by Berks, it's non-property taxed. But once a property is purchased, if the prospect is purchasing the land, it would be taxed. So it just depends on how the deal is structured. A lease versus purchase.
Okay. And then the other question is, how do I find out who is heading up the projects in the Dallas-Fort Worth area? And Ann had said, La Pesca, City of Dallas Economic Development leads the efforts for Dallas. So I guess that was answered. I guess we'll just open up the floor if anyone has any questions. Oh, here we go. Do you have to set up an OOF? If so, what went into that process?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Did you have to set up an OOF? If so, what went into that process?
Is this related to the Berks question, maybe?
I think so, yes.
Okay. To answer Michael's question, we did not have to create a qualified opportunity fund. We're an opportunity zone designated.
Oh, I'm sorry. How did you know?
But right, an investor that wants to take part in the incentive would have to set up a qualified opportunity fund and be certified by the IRS. And there's the IRS website has the forms and the information. I would say speak to a tax attorney or a CPA to get more information about how you actually partake in that process.
And then I'm not sure if you see the new question.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. I do have a few, I'm happy to, I guess, Mr. Roth, if you want to email me, I'm happy to provide. There are some local attorneys I've been working with that are actually working in the space. I'm happy to share all their names, and then you can determine who you like to contact. I know a lot of the big financial groups and CPA groups are starting to, like E&Y, Novogradac, are working in this space. If you have any contacts there, I would recommend reaching out. But CPAs and tax attorneys are the ones that are really wrapping their arms around it because they're actually creating that. But Mr. Roth, my email address is in the last slide, or anyone else who has any questions, I'm happy to connect you with the San Antonio contacts that I have. And then at your discretion, you can decide who you want to call and reach out to.
Okay, guess we'll just wait a little bit if anyone else has any other questions. But again, just to remind everyone, this webinar was recorded and will be posted on our YouTube channel and on our website, along with the slides and presentation from both Amber and Ann. I can answer Michael's question. The website that these slides will be available on we'll have links on our main webpage in the events section. You can look up past webinars, and those will be like an attachment that you can download.
And I can answer Eva's question, I believe. Particular areas in a city oftentimes are the opportunity zones. So I would definitely look into whether or not the particular zone or zip code is an opportunity zone, because oftentimes it's only certain zip codes that were designated.
It's actually designated by census tract. So if you go to for the state of Texas, you can go to the governor's economic development website and see all the opportunity zones for Texas. But the designations by census tract, so sometimes there might be an overlay with like what census tracts could have 2 zip codes. So to be sure, I would definitely check the governor's website and or most, because there's the zone in Texas, we have 628 from our metro cities to our rural communities. So I would advise everyone to, and I can find the link and I'm happy to send it to Annie if she wants to include that in the information so that people will have the source of where they can go.
And Annie, before we wrap, I just want to thank Ann again so much for joining us today on such short notice. The information that she provided today was extremely helpful and useful. So I really appreciate you jumping on board so quickly.
Thank you for inviting me. If there's any other questions, always happy to help.
All right, well, thank you both very much again for doing this for us. A lot of great information. Like I said, I will be posting this recording along with any materials from Amber and Ann. Oh, we have one more question. Oh.
Thank you, Michael.
All right, well, I hope you both have a rest of Tuesday, wonderful Tuesday. And thanks again.
Thank you.